How you going, boys? Hybradge here. I'm currently ranked 92 on the solo queue ladder. I'm also the rank 1 Volibear in the world, and today I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about itemizing on Volibear. Okay, let's jump straight into it. 3 core paths you want to go. Standard path is the Cosmic Drive build. Okay, this is the build that all of you guys know about. Really good item of Volibear is the build you guys know the most about. It's the standard build. You go it in around 70% of your games, okay? Second most common build is the AD build, the Triforce build. So this build you go when your team is too AP focus. You don't want to go Cosmic Drive because if you do, then you overload on the AP damage. Not really nice, okay? So you want to go to Triforce to supplement your team's AD damage if your team is AP focus, okay? Third build, Stand and Bang build, Black Cleaver. This is the one that you guys have probably heard the least about, okay? Black Cleaver is a great item of Volibear. However, it is often worse than Triforce and Cosmic Drive. So when do we build it? We build it when we play against champions like Jarvan, Shinja, and Vi, which CC lock you and force you to stand there and fight them, okay? So Black Cleaver is the best when you're just forced to stand there and duke it out with them, okay? The rest of the 2 builds, Triforce the best when you need 80 damage, and Cosmic Drive the best when 99% of the games, okay? Now, before we jump into items, I want to talk about lethal or PTA. This is the most common question I get asked every single day on stream. Lethal or PTA, okay? My rule is if they have 3+ melee, you go lethal tempo. If they have 3+ range, you go press the attack. Why? Lethal tempo is the stronger rune when it comes to damage. We all know this, right? However, it is not going to be every game where you can proc lethal tempo often, right? So if you can't proc lethal tempo often, is it better than PTA? The answer is no. PTA is better if you can only proc once or twice a game, or like once or twice in a fight, right? Lethal tempo is good if you can just stand there and beat the crap out of someone. However, you're going to be against certain champions that have too much range where you simply won't be able to alter them. That's why when you're against 3+ melees, I say lethal tempo is better, just because lethal tempo is the stronger rune. However, if you can't proc lethal tempo, it is a waste to go it. So I'll go PTA if they're 3+ range. So that's my rule. Now there are some anomalies to this rule. For example, if you're playing against Sejuani and Udyr and 3 range, it might see, according to this rule, you'd be going press the attack, right? However, obviously you would want to go lethal tempo because you can beat the crap out of those guys, right? Those guys being there is enough for you to apply lethal tempo throughout the entire game. However, I will say if you're confused, just go with this rule. 3+ melee, lethal tempo, 3+ range, press attack. Okay, let's jump into the standard build. This build is the most common build, as I said. Why do you go Cosmic Drive? Because Cosmic Drive gives you the most, it gives you your passive attack speed, it gives you your passive damage, it gives you a lot of DPS with the AP it gives you. What else does it give you? It gives you movement speed that allows you to enter in and out. That's been an issue of Volibear, right? Volibear always has an entry in. He has Q, he has ult, but however, how does he escape? Compared to your champions, for example, like Belwolf, right? You can Q in and you can Q back out. On Volibear, you don't have that safety mechanism. Cosmic Drive gives you that safety mechanism because what you can do is you can Q, drop your E. With your E movement speed from Cosmic Drive, you can run out. You get an extra movement speed from Cosmic Drive, which is really, really nice. So this Cosmic Drive item is just perfect for Volibear. Also gives you all the stats you want, CDR, HP, freaking AP. It gives you everything you want. Cosmic Drive is perfect. Second item, what do you want to go? Iceborne Gauntlet. Now, this is a topic of debate. All of you guys hate me. You guys hate me for this, right? You guys say, why can't I just go Flicker Blade and dominate the game? Well, you can go Flicker Blade and dominate the game if you're far ahead enough and you're sure they can't kill you. 99% of games, you're not far ahead enough that they can't kill you, right? If you're playing against, for example, Lee Sin, if you go Cosmic Drive and Flicker Blade, he one-shots you. If you go Cosmic Drive and Iceborne Gauntlet, he doesn't one-shot you. Compare Iceborne Gauntlet to Flicker Blade. Both of them give you damage. Iceborne gives you HP and armor. Flicker Blade just gives you attack speed, it gives you more damage. Right? You already have enough damage with your kit. Volibear is one of the highest base damage champions in the game. You don't need more damage as your second item. What you need is tankiness so you can dish out that damage. If you don't have tankiness, if you get one shot, you won't dish out no damage, okay? Third item, Spirit Visage. Most broken item on Volibear, hands down. You go it if enemy has any sort of AP damage. If they have no AP damage at all, sure, you can skip Spirit Visage. But it is really, really broken on Volibear, to the point where even if they don't have AP, sometimes you want to build it, right? But if they have no AP, you can skip it, right? And what you can buy instead is one of the situational items. Except I will go Jackshow third and Flicker Blade fourth if I'm going to do that. If I'm going to skip Spirit Visage, I will still go Jackshow third just because it gives a little bit of MR. And even though they might not have any MR damage, any AP damage, right? Some champions like even Lee Sin has AP on his E, I think, or something like that. Or for example, yeah, you guys get what I'm saying. Like, let's say if they have a Janna support, he has a bit of AP. If you have no MR, you can get cooked, okay? So always just get a little bit of MR from the Jackshow if you're going to skip out on Spirit Visage. Now, with this build, usually, following the normal structure, you're going to go Cosmic, Iceborne, Spirit Visage, Jackshow, and Flicker Blade. You can go Flicker Blade before Jackshow if you're not struggling at all. Let's say if after 3 items, you're like, I'm tanky enough, you can go Flicker Blade before Jackshow. However, let's say if the game is very gritty, then Jackshow before Flicker Blade is perfectly fine. If you want to skip out on Spirit Visage or skip out on Flicker Blade, let's say because you think you can't auto too much and you think the Flicker Blade is kind of wasted, you can go any of the items listed here. My personal favorite is Redemption. I think Redemption is a very underrated item of Volibear. It buffs your healing, buffs your shielding. It is also a one-hitter quitter. It can win you a fight from nowhere. So if you want to go Redemption, it's fine. Otherwise, Frozen Heart and Randuin's against strong AD champions is also perfectly good. I would go Randuin's if they have double ADC. I would go Frozen Heart if they have like a Yasuo or something who I can just completely cook with the Frozen Heart item, right? Go Bramble Vest. Sorry, go Forward Mail if enemy has healing and you want to be the heal cut. Although I will say I don't really like heal cut on Volibear. I think it's hard to proc it, and usually people don't focus you too much, okay? Force of Nature is good if you're playing against any sort of poison. It gives you that movement speed. However, I will say it's a little bit overkill with the Cosmic Drive. If you really need it, you can get it. If you're really struggling to latch on top of people, you can go Force of Nature. Katie Rockern, you can go if they have a lot of AP damage, for example, Ziggs or something. Really good item there. And then the Spirit, if they have a lot of melees, you can go it. Abyssal Mass would tend to avoid going it if possible. However, if your team has three or more sources of AP damage, you can go Abyssal Mass. However, if your team has 3 or more sources of AP damage and you're going this build, you're trolling. Go the Triforce build if your team is AP focused, okay? Knight's Vow you can go if your team has a very, very fed hyper carry, for example, Tristana, who you realize that you just need to keep her alive to win the game. Knight's Vow is very, very good in that regard, okay? When it comes to boots, let's talk about the boots, okay? Most OP boots on Volibear is what? Ding, 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 ding. It is the Iron boots, okay? Always try to go Iron boots if you can. It's really broken. It gives you CDR. It gives you Flash CDR, which is the most important thing. Flash CDR is really, really broken on Volibear because let's say if you're only engaged or if you're like the primary engage, it allows you to go for picks every so often whenever it's up, okay? So Ionian Boots are by far the best boots of Volibear. Also, they have the best upgrades for feats of strength. If you look at the win rate, Ionian Boots upgrade has the highest win rate out of all feats of strength boots. Now, let's talk about Mercs, Tab Eyes, and Swifties. I would only go Mercs and Tab Eyes if they are mega value. Otherwise, I would default to Ionian Boots. Mercs, has mega value if enemy has a lot of CC, for example, Leona, or they have a lot of sources of AP damage along with some CC, okay? That's the only time I would go Mercs. Tab Eyes, you go if they have 2 or 3 on hitters, for example, a Jax, Leona, and Tristana. Then you have to go to Tab Eyes to survive. You can't go to the Ionian Boots, otherwise you won't live. So that makes perfect sense. But again, I would try default to Iron Boots if I could. If there really is a strong case for the other boots, I would go for it. Swifty Boots, you guys ask me for this a lot. I pretty much never go them with this build. I think they're pretty useless. You have Cosmic Drive and Wind Speed already. You don't need Swifties. However, if they have a lot of slows, for example, Braum, I don't know, Lux, MF, then sure, you can go Swifty Boots. Again, you go it in less than 1% of the games, okay? Iron Boots are the best. Mercs and Tab Eyes are the best if there's a case for them. Swifty Boots are pretty ass. Leaf for tempo or press the attack, I already explained, you can go whichever, depending on if they have more range or if they have more melees, right? Depending on how much you can auto. Why do I go sorcery here? You guys say, why not go Jack of all trades? Why not go resolve? Why not go domination? You need the sorcery to buff yourself a little bit, okay? So if you look at water walking there, it's really, really OP in the early and mid game, okay? So water walking is really OP in the early and mid game. Your build kind of, it still makes you really strong after your first item, but you are not as strong as the Triforce and Cleaver build, okay, with Cosmic Drive. Even though Cosmic Drive is the best first item, you're not the strongest after it, you know, so you can kind of lose skirmishes. Having that water walking to buff up your early game just a little bit is really, really important, okay? Once you get your second item, don't get me twisted, you are going to be a painter, okay? You're going to 1v9 the game. However, I really like sorcery just to buff up, supplement your weak early and mid game. Last Stand, Haste, Triumph, these all make sense. Celerity is also really good with Cosmic Drive. That's why your sorcery is really good. Okay, let's talk about the AD build. AD build, Triforce is mega good for skirmishing. Just straight up, Triforce is mega good for skirmishing. Okay, you go with this build, you go Jack of all trades, and pretty much what you want to do, I've already released 2 videos on this. What you want to do is you want to make sure you have 5 Jack of all trades stats on your first base. How do you do that? You do a 9 camp clear, and you have 1200 call when you base, and you buy Dark Seal. Then you have 5 stats easy. Okay, if you want to know how to do it, just watch my videos on it. It's very educational. It's very informational. You can tell it from there. It's hard to explain with a graphic, but it's very easy to tell from those games. Okay, you can just watch the first 5-6 minutes if you don't have time. It's very, very quick. Okay. With this build, I'd really prefer Leaf for Tempo. I would really never go it with Press the Attack. It's really, really OP with Leaf for Tempo because of the attack speed from Triforce and the AD from Triforce. So I really, really like Leaf for Tempo specifically with this build. If you have to go PTA, sure, you can go PTA. Triforce gives you everything you want. AD, health, freaking movement speed, attack speed, everything. So Triforce is really good. Deadman's Plate, I go Deadman's Plate with this build because it gives you the Jack of all trades stats faster, but also because with this build, you don't have the Cosmic Drive movement speed or the sorcery movement speed. So having Deadman's Plate to give you that extra movement speed is essential. It's quite literally essential. You have to go Dead Man's Plate with this build. You can't go Gauntlet with this build, okay? Spirit Visage Bird, I've explained, it's broken. Also gives you free Jack of all trade stats, which is completely broken as well. Broken on Volibear in every single build. We know that, okay? Situational items, I like going Jack Show here always, pretty much, because if you have an armor item here and an MR item here, having Jack Show to buff up both those stats is really, really valuable. You can go Flicker Blade with this build. I would say it's less good than the Cosmic Drive build, because with Cosmic Drive build you have AP on your spells. With this build you don't. Still, Flicker Blade is really, really broken with this build. Again, you can go all of these if you don't like Flicker Blade, you can go all of these situational items: Redemption, Kenny Rookern, Unending Despair, Frozen Heart, Randuin, Force of Nature, Bramoves. They're all really, really good. Okay, so you can go any of them if you really dislike Flicker Blade. Okay, let's say if you need to be tankier, you can go. Also, you can go Locketeer. I don't know why I've Dead Man's Plate here twice, but you should go. You can go Locketeer with this build. For boots, I prefer Mercs. I think Mercs is really, really good with this build. Why is Mercs good? Because it gives you 3 stats, whereas Tab Eyes or Plated Steel Caps gives you 2 stats, and Swifties gives you 1 stat, which is kind of weird, right? So and Iron Boots also only give you 1 stat. So I really, really like Mercs with this build. It's really, really valuable. However, let's say if there's no Mercs value in the game, of course don't go Mercs, go Tab Eyes, okay? You don't need to force the Mercs. But if there's any sort of Mercs value, I really, really like going the Mercs with this build, okay? This build is really, really strong, but I think the Cosmic Drive build is still stronger, so I would default to this build. If you need AD though, this build is a really, really good. If you need AD, this build is much better than the standard build, okay? Now, let's talk about the third build. So, again, I talked about it a little bit. This build is a stand and bang build, okay? You only want to build it against champions where you're forced to stand and fight them. Viego, Shinjao, Jarvan, Vi, Nocturne. Cleaver is really good against these champions, okay? For runes, it's the same exact setup as the standard build. You just need the sorcery to make you stronger early game. You'll run them down the rift here. It's really, really good. You can go press the attack or leave for tempo here. Actually, with this build, I feel like press the attack works really, really well. But you know, Leaf for Tempo works just as well. It's just these 2 runes, again, there's always a case for both of them. You just have to make it, you just have to decide for yourself, okay? Why is Cleaver good? Gives you health, gives you AD armor shred, gives you AD, and gives you HP. So it gives you everything you need. It gives you haste, I mean, not HP. So it gives you everything you need. It's probably the second strongest item on Volibear, second strongest first item on Volibear. It's not quite as good as Cosmic. You know, Cosmic just gives you too many things. Cosmic makes you too malleable. Like, it allows you to play. Cosmic just has more skill expression, okay? That's why Cosmic Drive is a better item. Don't get twisted though, Black Cleaver is still a really, really broken item of Volibear, okay? Black Cleaver, Triforce, and Cosmic Drive are all insanely OP items of Volibear. It's just one is insanely OP, one is OP, and one is kinda OP, okay? That's kind of how I decided. Now, Cosmic Iceborne Gauntlet, you need Iceborne Gauntlet here because if you're standing and banging, Iceborne Gauntlet is really valuable. Okay, it's really, really valuable. Spirit Visage, we explained already. Now, you might be looking at, okay, the first time I'm seeing Flicker Blade missing. Why is Flicker Blade missing here? The reason being, with this build, you already have very low CDR because you have Cleaver, Gauntlet, and Spirit Visage CDR. So you don't need more CDR. So having Flicker Blade is overkill. It's really, really overkill, okay? Now, what do you go with this build then? I really like Jack Show. Again, I like Jack Show of all the Volibear builds. I think it's just a very good rounding item to buff up all your stats, buff up your HP, make you that tanky burn and just rip people apart. I really like Jack Show. Now, what else can you go? Sterak's is a really good item. Only go if they have CC. If you're going for damage, you're trolling. Don't go for damage. You can also go Overlord's Bloodmail. Some people talk about, personally, I really dislike it. Some people talk about it though, so if you want to go it, by all means, you can go for it. Force of Nature, if you need the movement speed, you can go for it. I think Force of Nature is actually an underrated item with this build because in this build you really don't have much movement speed. You don't have Cosmic and you don't have Dead Man's Plate. Okay, so having Force of Nature, if you really want to, is perfectly fine. There has to be value there though. There has to be enough AP and enough like poison or something to warrant it, okay? Otherwise it's useless. With this build, you can also go Cosmic Drive. Cosmic Drive is just a broken item of Volibear, so if you want to go it, you can. However, I will say I don't really like it too much. I saw some people go it in high-low. I don't like it because, again, I think you're wasting the ability haste stat. You're already maxed out on ability haste. Why build even more? Doesn't make sense, okay? Frozen Heart or Randuin's. I like Randuin's more because Frozen Heart gives you ability haste, which you're wasting, so Randuin's is better. Also, the slow from Randuin's allows you to stand and bang better, you know, like allows you to use your apply Cleaver more, allows you to apply Iceborne Gauntlet more. I just like it more. Dead Man's Plate, you can go in this item as well. I will say it's a little bit weird to go Dead Man's Plate and Iceborne Gauntlet, but there's no rule that you can't go it. I think it's perfectly fine if there's value for it. If you're really struggling to reach enemy teams, let's say if these 3 people, you're just fisting them and they're never standing and banging against you, then Dead Man's Plate you can go. Kidney Rock Current, Alien Despair, Fallen Mail, same as before. If there's value in those 3 items, you can go. Now, this build, Swifty boots are the best. Swifty boots are by far the best with this build because you lack movement speed, okay? So, those last 2 builds, Mercs was the best for the last one. Iron Boots were the best for standard build. This build, Swifties are the best because you lack the movement speed. You have that extra movement speed, that extra push to just juice out your damage. It's really nice. Not saying Iron Boots are bad. Iron Boots are always going to be good on Volibear. Even in this build right here, Iron Boots are great. Just harder to, you know, it's just, Swifties are just better with this build, okay? But if there's very good Iron Boots value, let's say if your flash is really, really important, sure, go Iron Boots. Tab Eyes, go if there's really big value, otherwise default to Swifties. Mercs, same thing. If there's really big value, go Mercs, otherwise default to Swifties. Obviously, if you can't auto attack at all, you need to go Mercs, don't go Swifties, okay? Only go Swifties if there's no value on Mercs and Tab Eyes, just like we talked about before. Okay, 60 minutes in. We've kind of wrapped it up. I try to make it as succinct as possible, explain it as clear as possible. If you have any questions, I stream every day at Twitch from 2 p.m. Central Eastern Standard Time around. I'll be there every single day. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in there. It's probably the channel I'm trying to grow the most, so I really, really do appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate all the support. If you have any questions, ask me in Discord, follow me on Twitter. Love you all. Peace. We out here.